them rest before going to the oven. This is very important because this will determine the shape of your macaron shells, and letting them rest will determine how they rise and how beautifully they're going to come out. Let's get baking.
So next we are going to pipe our macaron shells. When you're filling your bag, you want to make sure not to put too much batter into your pastry bag at once for two reasons. One, if you fill it to the tippy top, it's going to be really hard to squeeze all the way through and it'll hurt your wrist. And then secondly, your hands are warm, so you'll be slowly melting the batter at the top. When you're piping, consistency is key. This is the most important aspect of making your macaron shell. Because if you have on the same sheet pan, one that is the size of a mini Oreo and the other that is the size of a softball, they are going to bake for different times. So we're going to have to pick, do we want to bake for the little guy or the big guy? But we can't bake for both. Then, once you are squeezing and piping and you get to the desired size, you need to let go of the bag and release all pressure so the macaron batter stops coming out. Then, once you get to that size and stop squeezing, you want to bring the pastry bag out to the side. You don't want to lift up at the end. If you lift up, you're going to get this weird Hershey Kiss thing, which looks fine now, but then once you bake them and match them up, they're going to weeble and not lay flat, and then the ganache or whatever your filling is will just kind of ooze to the side. So you want them to be nice and flat. You also want to make sure that you do not move your tip. Once you start piping, you don't need to lift up, down, left, right. You don't have to draw a circle. Then you're going to have these weird Michelin Man, weird looking blobs. You don't have to do that. It's almost too easy. It's when you overthink it is when it gets difficult. You just keep the bag nice and low, squeeze until the size you want. You can even count in your head if that helps to keep it more consistent. I also like to pipe in a grid, so that way I can look to the macaron that I previously piped and then the one above it for sizing instead of piping in between. But find whatever works for you and stick with that. Once you have finished piping your macaron shells, you do not need to slam down the tray. Some people recommend this to get air bubbles out. It could just be our recipe, but we never have any issues with air bubbles and they'll be ready to go. The other issue you run into is if your batter is a little bit runny and then you slam the sheet pan down, they'll actually cause your macarons to spread and become weird blob shapes. So as soon as you're done piping, just set them out of the way to rest before they go in the oven. Your macarons are ready to go in the oven when you can poke the crust and it does not come off on your finger. You should feel that it's nice and firm and that it is not tacky at all. This is the point when you can put your macarons in the oven. You want to preheat your oven to 300 degrees, and then as soon as you put your macarons into the oven, turn the oven down to 275 and bake for 14 minutes.
So now our macarons have gone in the oven, so let's just cross our fingers and hope that they get beautiful feet and they come out absolutely perfect. Thank you for joining our Finesse Kitchen. Good luck making these at home, and happy baking.